Spooky, spooky Oreos, they're going in my mouth. I've wanted to eat these for ages. I've saved them for you. Don't even know what they look like. Normal, unassuming Oreo. Ah, that's the good stuff. Poorly executed, but that's the good stuff. Hi, YouTube. Do you recall last video where I said I was cursed with technology? What a week I've had. Essentially, my 2012 iMac had a midlife crisis and corrupted both my external 2TB hard drive and my time machine backup. So before you get all smug and go, you can't just have one backup, I had two. Both are dead. So I have lost all of the videos I had pre-prepared for YouTube, anything I had prepared for Patreon, all of my stream assets. Which is why this room looks a tiny little bit different. Not much, but enough. So we're starting again from scratch. It is what it is. We can't sit and worry about it for too long. I had about 3 days of mourning. And then I've just got to crack on with it. Fortunately, and I swear this isn't an ad, Redbubble are very kind enough to let you re-download the original file you uploaded to them. So thank God that exists. So, to make me feel better about my absolute technological breakdown, I played a little bit of PC Building Simulator to get us used to what might happen in the future. Eventually. That looks a little bit like this. Here we go. Oh, I won't lie to you, I'm getting a bit turned on. I agree. If it hasn't got RGB in it, we're doing something wrong. That's not very good cable management, is it? Look at the tension on that. Connect the graphics card. Is that how that works? That's kinda cool. It's educational. I've also lost $15. It's like real life. And it came up in chat that The Verge once horrendously built a PC. Now somehow, this has entirely escaped me. I've never seen it. So I thought what we'd do today, again, to make me feel better, mainly, we'll watch how bad this Verge PC build is. It's so bad they've deleted the original video, which gives me high hopes. The title of this video is The Verge's Shitty PC Guide Re-Upload, which I think seems promising. I'm promised this is atrocious and that I'm going to love it. So let's find out!
So a few years ago, TC, our managing editor, built a gaming desktop, but it's kind of out of date and it's definitely not going to hold up for Battlefield 5. So let's build a new one.
Let's build a new one.
You can build a gaming desktop for around $1,000, but I want to go all out, so I spent around $2,000. PC like this is going to be able to play most games at ultra settings. So what do you need?
You'd hope so for 2K.
Well, of course, first you need a table. Metal. If it's going to be metal, have it.
Whoa. The most important item in PC building is a table. Everybody got that? We need to go and get a table, alright? Ready? Got your table? Let's continue.
A static working surface layered on top of it, a thermal paste applicator, an Allen wrench, some tweezers to tighten up the wires, a Swiss Army knife which hopefully has a Phillips head screwdriver in it.
Hold on. A lot happened there. Very, very quickly. So hold on. We've got... Did he call those tweezers?
Allen wrench, some tweezers to tighten up the wires. Okay. Number one. Tweezers. Also known as cable tie. Imagine using them as tweezers. They haven't got the purchase, my love. Tweezers. Tweezers for cable management, obviously. Army knife.
And then this.
Has a Phillips head screwdriver in it.
No. Why are you building a PC with a Swiss Army knife? At what point during the pre-production process of this did they go, we're going to build it with a Swiss Army knife? I'm sure it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. But also, a Swiss Army knife that hopefully has a Phillips screwdriver in it. Go and get a pussy screwdriver. We are 41 seconds in. I already love it.
And last but not least, an anti-static bracelet, which is to protect you and the parts. These are the parts you're going to need, but more importantly, before we get there, we need to...
There was no grounding on that, right?
Protect you and the parts. These are the parts you're going to...
He's essentially got this on. And he's not grounded to anything. It's gonna do fuck all. When we started this, I honestly didn't think there would be this much to talk about. But we are under a minute in still, and there's already been like 5 things.
But more importantly, before we get there, we need to understand what these parts are doing and how they interact with one another.
Okay.
To understand the parts that make up a desktop, let's try to understand them individually. Last but not least, RAM, or random access memory, and your hard drive are good examples of short-term and long-term memory, respectively. If you want to better understand what kind of computer to build, then first figure out what you want to use.
Oh, here we go. This is what I want.
A gamer might care more about a graphics card than, say, a video editor, who might want extra RAM to assist with editing large files.
What if I'm a gamer, a video editor, and a streamer?
On parts, like a Core i5 or Core i3 processor.
Core i5?
They'll be less powerful, but then you'll be able to scale back the
No, AMD, my friend.
And if you need help choosing
AMD.
the right parts for your build, there's sites like PCPartPicker.com that help.
There's an i5 in this bloody iMac. We've seen what that did for us.
Which sort of part conflicts you might have, and
this is good advice, PC Part Picker.
We have a lot of boxes and a lot of PC parts, so it's best you unbox them, isolate the parts that you really need, place items.
It's like Lego. You've got to get your organization in first.
All fit, and then start working. And
Did
now
you
we're
put
really
that
going to
in
start
upside?
building by adding the motherboard in. Some notes
I
about
was just
installing
testing it,
motherboards,
give
they're
him the
really
benefit of the
delicate,
doubt, but
you
I'm
should be
sure
really
he
careful
tried
with
to put that power
and
supply
screw with
in the
confidence,
wrong
but
way.
Also, don't screw in too hard, otherwise you could crack the board. I chose Asus's
Don't screw in too hard,
Z370
that's what she
motherboard
said.
For 2 main reasons. One, it has built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and also it has support for NVMe SSDs, meaning you can get really fast SSDs that are really easy to install. Pay close attention to the brace that goes at the back of the computer. You always have to make sure that you really hammer it in, because there's no screw.
That's not in.
It has to go outside of
That's
the
not
case.
in, bro.
Meaning
brace.
you can get really fast SSDs that are really easy to install.
The I/O shield.
Pay close attention to the brace that goes
The
at the
brace.
back of the computer. You always have to make sure that you
I/O
really
shield
hammer
that
it in,
doesn't
because
appear
there's
to
no
be in
screw.
properly,
It
but
has to
go off.
outside of the case and clasp.
I know
onto
nothing
the
about
frame.
building PCs.
And this is very...
And yet, I know what these things are called. And I know how they go on. I mean, that I/O shield looks like it's clinging on for dear life. Why is he installing this already? Like, again, I'm an amateur, right? I fully admit that I'm an amateur. But isn't it easier to do like the CPU and the RAM and stuff now before you put the motherboard in? Because if you put it in the case, you've got nowhere to like go. Every PC build video I've ever watched, they've put together bits on the motherboard before it's gone in the case. Is that not just
so
best
next we're
practice?
install the RAM on the motherboard. I chose Corsair's 16GB Vengeance LED
Wow.
RAM for 2 main
Love a
reasons.
bit of LED
One, it
RAM.
has LEDs and
It's got LED. LED makes it go faster.
Open the slots first and just aligning the stick with the middle of the strip.
I
not
mean,
with-
he's opened 4 slots and he's got 2 sticks of RAM, but sure.
and just
Why not?
lining that up with the logo. So once you hear that solid clasp and you don't see the gold connectors on the side anymore, that's when you know the RAM is in. Step 3, we're going to install the hard drive.
Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Hold up. That RAM. He's put the RAM next to each other.
He's completely, like, wiped out any dual channel. Why has he put them next to each other? Doesn't everybody know you space out RAM? Isn't that just, like, a thing people know? And I mean, this guy, this isn't the first PC he's ever built. I am just gobsmacked by this entire fiasco. Under 4 minutes in.
I chose this format of solid state drive so that I could input it into the motherboard without having to worry about extra wires or putting it in a separate part of the case and just getting really messy. This is from Kingston.
Really messy.
And it's 480 gigabytes, so it's not a lot, but you can always upgrade this and swap it out.
Kingston!
Held down by
Kingston, we gonna sleep all day and party all night.
Speed for gaming is important when it comes to a hard drive.
Speed.
You want files to write quickly.
I feel the need for speed for gaming.
So that's why it's best if you use an SSD. Okay, so step 4, we're going to install the graphics card. I chose PNY's
Has he not put the CPU in yet?
And so it's a pretty easy installation.
Graphics card last, my dude! Graphics card last!
And you're going to line this bracket with
Why
the
is
back
he
end bracket.
He hasn't put the CPU in yet, is he?
Now,
I didn't miss that.
Lane you choose depends entirely on
which lane?
Sure,
alright. Go
I'm
off.
just going to pick the top one because
Go on, son.
SSD is at the bottom and I
Lane.
can't cover it. I just think it looks nice. Click down.
Choose your lane.
Power supply time. I chose Corsair's
Power supply
350
time.
watt power supply because I need enough headroom for ray tracing GPUs when they come out, and I don't want to have to upgrade it again. So all you have to do is take
upgrade
the brick
it again.
and make sure that you align it.
Upgrade it again. He's spending $2,000 on a PC rig. You shouldn't have to re-upgrade this for some time. Upgrade it again. I tell you what, I'd love for money to be no object like it clearly is for this fella.
In pads, so the power supply doesn't short circuit and come into contact with the rest of the system.
No.
Make sure that you align it
Did
with
he just say
insulating pads?
insulating
so the power supply
pads?
doesn't short circuit and come into contact with the rest
Short
of the system.
circuit!
So just take it in.
So the power supply doesn't short circuit the system from coming into contact with the case. Physics is hard, yo.
Slide it in nice and easy.
No!
I
told you he was doing this at the beginning. He's got the fan facing inside the computer. It's gonna overheat he's got no airflow. This is insane. Although it's making me feel so much better. So when I eventually build a computer, it won't be this much of a shit show. I'll know to put the fan to the fucking outside.
Right up against the frame.
Right up against the frame,
you just
because you wouldn't want any of that nasty air to get in, would you?
Required screws and you tighten. And
Oh, there he is with his Swiss Army knife.
So next step, we're going to install the CPU core. In this case,
I told you. Why is the CPU coming in this late? I'm so confused. Surely CPU is the first thing you put in. Am I an idiot? Surely CPU is the first thing you put in. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't. But I mean, if your CPU's fucked, then your entire system's fucked, isn't it?
With the case, and we're just gonna have the hose hang out.
Why is he's putting the CPU in now when everything is in the system? It feels like he's got no room to maneuver.
A while until we install the processor, which is gonna come a little later.
Why? Why is the processor later? Also, there are no fans installed on that. Please tell me you put fans on before that goes in. Please put fans on it. Please. I'm asking you, past Verge man. Please put fans on. Otherwise, bad things are going to happen.
Try to place it.
It's going to be a cooler without fucking fans.
System first before you install it, because you can see it takes up a lot of space.
It does take up a lot of space.
But in this case, no pun intended.
It takes more space when it's got fans on.
Screwing it in. And
he did a pun.
Process. They're just really long.
He hasn't. He hasn't put the fans on. My mind is blown.
the entire
It's blown.
cooler, and they take forever.
Oh, I tell you,
next
do you know
up,
what might take it forever? I'm going to put it out here. Screwing it in with a Swiss Army knife. Perhaps that's what's taking your time. Who knows? Who can say?
Every power supply is going to come with a
horrified.
big bag of Velcro cables.
I'm
It's kind of
horrified.
daunting at first, so you always have to find the ones that are going to fit.
Daunting
In
cables.
this case,
Daunting
you need
cables.
to match
Don't they only
those
go into, like,
cables
one
with the correct
place?
descriptions on the power supply.
It's also,
The
he's
next
got an
step is
entirely
we're connecting
modular
the Power
system.
supply to the motherboard.
It's got an entirely modular power supply, so what's the
We're
problem?
just matching that cable from the motherboard, threading it through the back, and attaching
made
the
this
24
so
pin
much
header
more
to the
difficult
power
for
supply
himself.
so that we can have one of the connections complete. The next few additions will be for the GPU, for any specific ports that the case has, for any
Imagine
lighting
not
that
having
the
put
case
this
has, the
CPU
cooler,
in yet.
anything else really. We're installing the CPU, the heart of the computer or the brain, depending on how you look at it.
The heart or
So
the
to do this,
brain.
we're just going to remove the plastic covering that they put on the motherboard.
No.
We're just
That
gonna
comes
take this
off when you
little
put the
plastic part
CPU in.
out. Just toss that out of here. And now we have an exposed CPU holder, or rather slot
No!
on
No,
the,
no,
to take
no,
this
no.
little plastic part.
Okay, right. Number one, don't throw that away because you might need it later. If you ever have to send your motherboard back, you need to cover up that fucking socket. Number two, he's like roughly ripped it out of the system and thrown it away. The whole point is you put a CPU in, and then as you close the bracket, then obviously that pops out because then there's not enough space for it. It's all fully designed so you don't break your motherboard. What's happening? Am I in a parallel universe?
Out. Just toss that out of here. And
Not easy
now
the second
we have
time.
An exposed CPU.
You shouldn't
holder,
have
or
an
rather
exposed
slot on the
CPU
motherboard.
socket, and it's not a
And we're
holder.
going to use the CPU applicator. This is a special little part that not everyone
Why
may
do you
get,
need
but
that?
this motherboard that we got from
Also, why is he
Airixis
attacking it with
definitely does
glass?
have. It's called the CPU installation tool. It
I've
makes
got
it
one
really
of these
useful
things
if
that
you want
puts
to
my screen
install
protector
a
on my
Core i7
iPhone. I don't
hexacore
need it for CPU.
Yeah, we've got one, and it's an 8th generation chip.
We
and
got
it's ready to
one.
go, and it's supported.
We got one!
So what having this little installer does for you is it's basically a brace that you can apply.
What was it?
Right.
Was it an
And it's an 8th
i7?
generation chip, and it's only does have. It's called a CPU installation tool. It makes it really useful if you want to install a Core i7 hexacore CPU.
i7.
Yeah, we've got one.
i7
and it's an 8th generation
hexacore.
chip, and it's
We're
ready to
gonna
go,
brag, are we?
And it supports overclocking. So what having
I
this
mean,
little installer does for
Okay,
you is
decent
it's basically a
CPU.
brace
Be
you
more
can
impressed if it
apply
was like an
right to the
AMD.
CPU and
A
line it
Ryzen
up with the
7 maybe?
triangles, and we're just going to carefully lean it down into the system and make sure that everything lines
This would have
up.
been so much
and we can clasp
easier.
down on it, and we'll be good to go.
It would have been so much easier if he'd just done it
So
before
we're
it
about
went
to apply
in.
thermal paste to the CPU. Every CPU cooler actually comes with a bit of thermal paste already neatly
Right.
applied in a circle around it, but it's usually not enough. It's good, essentially PC building practice to have.
You know that precision engineered CPU cooler that they have sent to you with, say, a thermal pad on it or thermal paste? It's usually not enough. Why put it on? What's the point? It's not enough. I am dreading this. If he thinks the default thermal paste and the thermal pad isn't enough, is he gonna be a grain of rice guy? That's the question.
A little bit extra.
Let's
and
find
layer
out.
it
No.
On top of the CPU.
No,
The final
that's
solution
already
is
way
to
too
add
much.
the CPU cooler to the top end of the processor. So you're gonna see that there are 4 brackets, or
Let's go back a tiny bit. Let's go back a... He's iced a fucking cake. What's that? What is that? And why is there so much of it? In fact, look, and you can see the RAM. He's iced his fucking CPU like he's put royal icing on it. And then he's got his 2 Look at his Corsair RAM.
fucking next to each other. This is deeply upsetting. I didn't expect to have these emotions watching this. This couple-of-year-old video about a man just trying to build a PC. I'm deeply, deeply upset by it.
Keep it cool. Take.
Like, see how look how much easier this would have been if he'd done this outside of the case.
Screw them on. So now that our internals are done, we're going to put all the panels back on, which is the top glass, side glass, front glass, and of course the back panel where...
Are we sure this machine isn't going to explode? Also,
so we
wouldn't you test it before you put the thing in?
Together,
no!
And we no!
No. Okay. Okay. I was going to say, he's boxed it all up without testing it, right? Which sure, I mean, okay, that's his prerogative, he can do that. But if it was me, I'd want to test it all out first and make sure it worked before I boxed everything back in. However, he interrupted me with this. He interrupted me with this. Now, I understand people can get funny about cable management. And generally speaking, the stuff at the back, fine, knock yourself out, no one's going to see it. But you've got a tempered glass front panel. The whole point is to show off your computer internals. He's got a massive... That cooler pipe is literally leaning on his GPU. That's gonna fucking sag. He's got this mess of cables down the bottom. He's got a modular power supply. It should be so much easier just to tidy this up. I am bemused.
Everything's put together, and we got to the post screen.
Oh, you got to the post screen? That's a fucking miracle.
You need a USB flash drive with your Windows installation media on it.
Yes.
And of course, a license key.
I love that they didn't show him booting this up. Also, the big cable has gone from the one in the background. So somebody has been in there and tidied that up. What are the odds, though? Because he didn't put any fans on his cooler either. So what are the odds he got to the post screen? I reckon he didn't. And they had to take it all apart again and someone else rebuilt it. And then he went, look, we posted. Eventually.
I plugged that up, installed Windows in a couple of minutes, installed a bunch of drivers, and now we have
a bunch of drivers.
Gaming PC
Steady on, lads.
ready to run
We got ourselves a
games.
professional.
Right now I've got Armor 3 running at maximum settings, native resolution, which is 1080p HD. And it's running pretty smoothly. Like, I'm averaging 70 and 80 FPS.
It's a $2,000 rig. I would hope it's running fucking smoothly.
So right now I'm playing League of Legends. It's one of my favorite games. I'm actually playing against a bot.
I spent $2,000 to play League of Legends.
Not doing so well. But otherwise, like, foul.
No shades to League of Legends, but you don't need a $2,000 rig to play it, do you?
Like I am right now. I'm averaging 120 FPS, and that's only because I've actually locked the game to that frame rate, because I can get around 300 FPS playing League on maximum settings, which is a little bit absurd, and you don't really need that, so I locked it. Building a gaming desktop has been a great experience. I'm able to max out a lot of my favorite.
It's been a great experience, but not for the PC, which is crying out in agony.
5 and Cyberpunk 2077. Without worrying too much about the parts.
Oh, this was quite recent then, Cyberpunk.
GPUs come out, for example,
like, a couple of years.
Having to buy
Wow. I hope Capital One are proud of themselves.
Thanks for watching.
Was it worth it, Capital One?
Before yourself, or how you would spend $2,000 on your own build. I'm really interested in seeing what sort of parts you guys would get.
You give me $2,000 for a build, mate.
And subscribe to The Verge if you haven't already.
I feel like he was like massively ripped off. God, $2,000. $2,000 and essentially broke all his parts before he started. Well, that was something else, wasn't it? Look, I am a complete amateur. I have never built a real life PC before. I've changed things out, like I've upgraded GPUs and I've upgraded RAMs and hard drives and what have you. And I've never built one from scratch. And yet, that video gives me all the confidence in the world that whatever I build will be fine. I've been doing a bit of reading up since.
And apparently he's just been so completely adamant about the fact he didn't do anything wrong. And I think that's why this has probably lasted as long as it has, in terms of being a meme, and the fact that people are still recommending it to me. I think if he just come out and said, you know, it sounds like they said that they had a rushed take. They could only do it once and this, that and the other. But all of that doesn't explain some of the stuff. Like, why are they building it with a Swiss Army knife? Why did he put so much thermal paste on that CPU? It was like he was icing a cake. Why did he put the RAM in next to each other? Why did he put the power supply in with the fan facing the back of the cage? I think there are certain things you can't explain away by just saying we had a rushed filming schedule. Some of that is just poorly building a PC. So, thank you for joining me. I have a lot of work to do to try and rebuild everything that was previously on my machine. It is what it is. That's what life is. It throws curveballs at us, and it's just about how we deal with them and move forward. That's what I always say, publicly. So, hopefully, I will catch you in the next video, which I need to start making essentially immediately. That's the spookiest Oreo I've ever tasted. Catch you in the next video.